Upon thee the weight of sin this helm shall bear.
Sup folks, finally, I just released a teaser trailer for Impious, and making it taught me more about filmmaking than I expected. So today I'm breaking down how I did it, the approach, people involved, and then the technical side inside Godot. The link to the actual trailer, by the way, is in the description and everywhere I can fit around this video, so please make sure to go watch it in the new channel, it really helps. At some point I realized I had enough atmosphere, enough artwork, enough of a vision to actually show the project to people outside of these devlogs. And my Steam page had no trailer, which is kind of mandatory nowadays, so I thought it was time to stop building in silence and put something out there. When I started thinking about the approach, I realized something, that the game is dark, slow and tactical, and that is not the same thing as having a flashy action sequence or a fun mechanic to show off. A full gameplay trailer is a no-go right now, as I don't want to show unpolished mechanics subject to change. And what I had instead is a clear vision, a defined atmosphere and enough artwork. So that's where I had to focus, to make something atmospheric with just a few glimpses of gameplay. Alright, I got it. I'm gonna make some cutscenes, put them all together, some music and done. But the reality is that I got completely stuck. I knew how to make the scenes, the shots, I had everything, but I had no idea how to approach it as a whole. I can make videos for sure, but I can't make cinema, and that was a total creative block. That's when I thought of my friend Johnny, a talented and experienced filmmaker with whom I worked in the past. Thought of him because I didn't need a gamer, I needed someone that is truly passionate about cinema, and so he is. So I asked him. He loved the project, but he felt that he was missing context, and that's where he gave me an interesting perspective. He said, okay, concept and artwork is cool, but I don't understand the context. Send me a more detailed document about why things are the way they are, and most importantly, write me a text impersonating that cult leader. I want to know his tone, how he talks, how he thinks. And that was a proper oh shit, that actually makes sense moment. I wrote a document with all the lore and context I had scattered around, and then I wrote a manifesto written by him. Everything clicked. He made me do that because he thought we would need 100% a voiceover with this guy talking to an Impious one. I hadn't thought about it at all, but it made more and more sense. Then he came over, we played with different cameras and shots, and gave me a few keys like, hey, the doors are important in this project, right? So give me some close shots of the doors. Then I want a shot of the Impious one from behind, turning back. 50mm camera, blur background here, make some shots of the symbols here and there. So he had it so clear. 3 parts, one presenting the atmosphere, the Impious one and the same mask with a catchphrase, then a change of rhythm with more percussive music showing more gameplay, and then a third silent part with a final catchphrase. Sent him some footage and he returned to me a quick sketch as a guideline to follow by myself. It was truly amazing to have someone that experienced with such a clear vision, as I was miles away from coming up with that structure on my own. Gracias, tío. Alright, so I'm gonna need some voice acting, I guess. Yeah. No problem, I had my guy, Igor Vilupek. He's by far my favorite actor and a good friend from my times in Ireland. He's a really talented guy in many areas, and I was really excited with the idea of doing something together outside of the band we had, or just going out for a few pints. He loved the idea and quickly understood the mood and the tone required, which consisted in some dark, intense but paternalistic tone. He sent me many different versions to choose from, which is cool, but a bit of a nightmare for me to choose and stick to one. But also, what I wanted is more of a neutral English accent, so he was perfect as he is from Croatia, and after a couple tries he pretty much nailed everything, so hvala brate! One of the most important things here, music and effects, were made by my guy Daniel Patrick Swine. He is a talented video game sound designer and composer who happened to live near me. We got in touch, made friends, made many barbecues, and even played together in an Aussie tribute gig. But at the end, we were never talking about video game development. It was all about life, music, and cooking. So one day I was like, hey man, let's show our projects to each other. I actually wanted him to make the music for Impious, as he's a very talented composer and has a good touch and feeling for dark music. So I went to his studio and showed him the project. He loved it and agreed to make it. Cool, so he understood clearly what I wanted and how it would be the mood of the music. Dark, ominous, atmospheric, but percussive, a bit glitchy even, and boom! Nailed it pretty quick and fit like a glove with the rhythm and sound effects. We may cover more about sound design in a future devlog, but I'm really glad to have him on board. Thanks, mate! Alright, let's jump to a more technical part. I want to show you how I approach this inside the project to record and export all the cinematic videos in the most productive way possible. As my workflow is always as non-destructive as I can, this was going to be no different. What is the main problem when exporting cinematics? Changes. There can be a lot of changes and mistakes. You might notice an object is misplaced, an animation doesn't fit right, anything really. And what happens if I have a ton of scenes and shots and I want to change something in the character, for example? Exporting them one by one again is a nightmare and a massive waste of time. My approach was to have only one source of truth, one single video file. If I make a change, I only export that one file. Same structure, same length. That means the final video edit would update automatically every time I re-render the cinematics. As I made infinite tweaks, this approach was a massive time saver. Let me explain. One main scene containing everything. All the rooms, characters, cameras, everything. A main animation player in charge of setting up everything from hiding and unhiding objects, setting up the character animations, camera attributes, all of it. One animation per shot. All of them 8 seconds long. If other animation players were needed, their animations would be also 8 seconds long. The trick here is that via script each animation plays, and when it ends, the next camera is set to current, and the same animation plays again. Then where all the camera shots of each scene are done, we get to the next animation. This way, for each shot we have multiple cameras to choose from when editing. Any change is just a matter of hitting play in cinematic mode and then the file updates automatically. Always the same file with the same structure in the video editor. The next part was obviously capturing gameplay, but this is harder to replicate in a non-destructive way, so I had to lock the scenes 100% early. If something is wrong, you have to capture everything again as close as possible and then re-edit it, but that's the way it goes. And finally, well, I used Kdenlive because it's more than enough for what I need. There's not much fancy stuff apart from a bit of film grain effects and that's it. As you can see, the whole video edit basically comes down to 2 video files. And that's pretty much it. Still working hard on the project and hopefully the next devlog won't take that long. It will be with a much more updated look of the current state of the game. And if you made it this far, thank you very much and hope it was useful for you in a way. And please go watch the actual trailer on the game channel, links in the description and everywhere around this video. And well, if the project looks interesting to you, please consider adding it to your Steam wishlist. So see you in the next one. Cheers!